Today is December 5th. It's the 340th day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. On this day in 1872, the Canadian brig Di Grazia is sailing about 400 miles east of the Azores off the coast of Portugal when her crew spot a vessel adrift in the ocean. Di Grazia's captain recognizes the ship, the Mary Celeste. She left port in New York more than a week before Di Grazia. Assuming the ship is in distress, the captain sets a heading for her, and when they come alongside the Mary Celeste, they find her abandoned, not a soul on board. She's a ghost ship. The Mary Celeste begins her life as a ship called Amazon, launched in 1861, and she's cursed from the start. On her maiden voyage, her captain takes ill and dies. A new captain takes over, and soon after that, she runs into fishing lines and traps off the coast of Maine, and then later runs into and sinks another ship in the English Channel. In 1867, she's run ashore during a storm and damaged so much that her owners abandon her as a wreck. The wreck is bought and then sold and restored by its new owner, who renames the ship the Mary Celeste. The ship is refitted a few years later, increasing its cargo capacity and its overall size, and a new captain is hired, Captain Benjamin Briggs. For his first voyage on the Mary Celeste, he handpicks his small crew and brings his wife and daughter along on the trip. Under Captain Briggs's command, the Mary Celeste departs New York in early November 1872. When the crew of Di Grazia comes upon the Mary Celeste on this day, the Mary Celeste has been adrift for 10 days. A boarding party climbs aboard. They poke around and find that all the Mary Celeste's cargo is intact. Her crew's belongings are still in their quarters, and there's a 6-month supply of food and water. The Mary Celeste's lifeboat is missing. One of her pumps is disassembled, and there's almost 4 feet of water in the ship's hold. The initial investigation by the salvage court finds evidence that seemingly points to foul play, some stains that might be blood scattered about the ship. But they can't say for sure, and there's not much other evidence to point to criminal wrongdoing. The salvage court settles the claim without a clear determination of what happened to the Mary Celeste. So naturally, rampant speculation ensues. Theories include a waterspout that sucks the crew up off the deck, or a seaquake, or an iceberg, or that they abandoned ship in fear that their cargo of denatured alcohol might explode, or perhaps the denatured alcohol, which smells pretty foul, starts leaking out of the barrels and the putrid odors drive them all from the vessel. The logical conclusion is that Captain Briggs orders the crew to abandon ship, and that there is sufficient reason for the crew to believe that they need to follow that order. A recent theory holds that Captain Briggs is way off course and not where he thinks he is, that the ship gets tossed around in a storm and takes on water, the water Di Grazia's boarding party finds in the hold, and that Captain Briggs sees land nearby when he's about 6 miles off the coast of Santa Maria in the Azores. So he decides to abandon what he believes to be a sinking ship, climbing into the Mary Celeste's only lifeboat with his crew and family to make for land. A fateful decision. 12 years later in 1884, Arthur Conan Doyle writes a fictional account of the tragedy. He renames the ship the Marie Celeste, a passenger ship in his short story. Conan Doyle speculates in his narrative that one of the passengers is a fanatic who kills everyone on board except for one other passenger, the narrator of the story, of course. It's pure fantasy, but there are some who think it could be a likely explanation of what happened. and his story spawns other tales that spawn the many myths surrounding the Mary Celeste, or the Marie Celeste as she's sometimes called after Conan Doyle introduces her into the dominion of folklore. And years later, yet another theory is proposed, that the crew is picked off the ship and devoured by a gigantic octopus. That's the theory I'm going with, to explain what happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste, found inexplicably abandoned and adrift in the Atlantic, on this day in 1872. Now, I'm going to go way out on a tangent here, but the story of the Mary Celeste really makes me want to see the film Dead Calm. If you haven't seen Dead Calm, what is wrong with you? Nicole Kidman, Sam Neill, Billy Zane, all stuck on a boat in the middle of the ocean in a taut, action-packed thriller. Not necessarily a family film, so kids, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to wait a few years. But trust me, it's worth the wait. Directed by Philip Noyce and produced by George Miller, the director of such fare as Babe, Pig in the City, Happy Feet, The Witches of Eastwick, and the Mad Max franchise. Dead Calm is such a good film. Such a good soundtrack by Graham Revell. But my favorite part of the film is when Billy Zane's character, Huey, is rocking out to the song Who Stole the Isopropyl Alcohol by Tim O'Connor. I love this part of the film so much I had to track Tim O'Connor down and get a copy of the song, and this was before Google was all up in everyone's business. I was lucky enough to find an email for him. Ironically, he was living on a boat at the time in Holland, and he sent me a copy of his album along with a lovely note. I really appreciated that personal touch. I'm pretty sure he's still up there in Holland on his boat, but if you want your own copy of this fantastic song, and it's a great album too, you can find Tim O'Connor at hikingpoet.com. There are 26 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. Born on this day in 1901, Werner Heisenberg, German physicist, academic, and Nobel Prize laureate. So if you're still listening, now, say my name. Talk to you tomorrow.
You may say what it needed for, and if I could answer you, maybe his wife's back was sore, but what can one man do? Peace, if there is any, must be within. Whoever said it's out here got to be fooling. On your ears, this joke will fall. Don't get caught stealing isopropyl alcohol.